10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 433. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 433 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. This week we are going to do part 4 in our series on prompting over the blues. And I haven't really decided yet if we want to keep going with this prompting thing next month, maybe over a different tune. I really like this type of work. I've heard from some of you that you're also enjoying it. But feel free to reach out and let me know if you're enjoying this and you want to hear more on this particular topic. Okay, so for the first 3 episodes, we did different points in the blues form as far as where our prompts land. And we're going to do one final part of this 12-bar blues. And I think, again, just like last week where we were talking about measure 8 going into measure 9, how if you don't think about using the 6 chord in measure 8, that's really something that can kind of like breathe new life into your solos. It provides a lot of harmonic and melodic forward motion going into that 2 chord, and it can really just, if you've never used it before, transform your playing. It can give a whole different color to your palette to have that secondary dominant pushing into the 2 chord. And I'm hoping that if any of you were in that situation where you didn't use it, last week provided you an opportunity to really understand how powerful that could be and understand how much of a difference it could put in your improvised statements over the blues. We're going to do another part of the form that I think has almost the same impact. I would say that it's not quite as powerful, although it's basically the same thing, but in a different part of the form. So a lot of times what will happen is when we get to the end of the blues form, so let's say measures 9 through 12, the last 4 bars of the form, what we'll do is we'll play 2, 5, 1, and then a lot of times we'll just play 5 in the last bar to turn us back around into the top. Right? So we'll go 2, and that is a really nice way to push us back in the top. Okay. Now let's go up one level from that in terms of harmonic complexity. The next thing that we could do is in that last bar, instead of just playing the 5 chord, we could play 2, 5, 1. It just gives us a little bit more oomph, a little bit more of a push into the top of the form. So 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. Right? I think you would probably agree that gives us a little bit more forward motion going back into the top of the form. The thing I want to talk about this week is basically doing a little miniature version of measures 8 through 11, but condensing them all into bars 11 and 12. So what that means is that in bar 11, we're going to go 1 for 2 beats. Then we're going to go to 6. Then 2, 5, 1. So if we put that in context from measure 9, we would go 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now let's do it one time without me talking. This is a really, really nice progression that really pushes us back into the top, right? It's like every time we add a chord, we're adding those chords in service of giving ourselves, again, more forward motion in our playing, right? It's like those chords help push us to the next chord, to the next chord, to the next chord, to the next chord. It's all basically based off of 5-1 motion, secondary dominance. But every time we add something, we get a little bit more propulsion into the next chord. So I've got 3 prompts for you this week, and they're all based off of coming out of measure 10 into measure 11, into measure 12, and then that ultimately pushing you back into the top. So here is the first prompt, and this one starts in the second half of measure 10, so beat 3 of measure 10, leads you into the resolution point to the 1 chord, and then basically carries you through those 2 measures right out until the end and pushes you back into the top. Here's what it sounds like. So you can hear the beginning of that one, at least measure 11, is, based a lot off of triadic movement. And I happen to love triadic movement. And you can really hear that even without the chord filled out with just roots underneath it, you could really hear those changes. You could hear that 1 transitioning to 6, to 2, to 5. Even if I did it without the roots, really, you can deduce what's happening under there simply by the melodic line. All right, let's move on to the second prompt for this week in the exact same place. The only thing about this one that's a little bit different is I've only prompted you starting on beat 4 in measure 10. Let's hear that one more time. So it's like 1, 2, 3. And you could hear that one has a little bit of a sequence vibe to it. A sequence being like you play one thing over one set of changes, then you play the exact same thing over another set of changes. So that can be a really good one to start to hear sequential material. And it's a little bit simpler. And I've left you a little bit of room at the end of measure 12 to kind of fill in that last beat if you so choose. If you don't choose to, that's absolutely fine too. All right, let's move on to the third and final one for this week. This one again starts on beat 3 of measure 10. So here we go. 1, 2. So you can hear I used all quarter notes in the last bar, which is, not something you see too often. And also you get to choose what note you want to resolve to over the 1 chord. Let's try that one more time. 1, 2. Okay, so those are going to be your 3 prompts for this week. And I hope that if these are changes that you don't typically play, I hope this sort of starts to open the door for this as an option. Again, you don't have to do this. You may not even want to do this on every course. It's a really specific sound, right? It's really, really putting a lot of changes in there, which is totally fine. But again, this is the way that you play. So you'll have to decide, first of all, if you want to do that. And second of all, how often you want to do that. And so much of that through experience just becomes like second nature. Like you're not thinking about it. So, I played something into the end of the blues that would make a ton of sense to actually play this 1, 6, 2, 5 progression, or the opposite, right? So don't stress too much about that, and don't take any way of doing something as gospel. This is the way to do it. You cannot do it any other way. This is superior. You're going to do all these different things. And in fact, that's the hallmark of a really good player, is to be able to do a whole bunch of different things over a form like this. Okay, treat it in a whole bunch of different ways depending on the situation, who you're playing with, the tempo, the vibe, all that good stuff. Okay. So I will have these new prompts along with some trading tracks for the Patreon members. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, that's the way that we support ourselves with this show. We don't do any ads on this show, so we just rely on people like you, the people getting benefit out of this, to support us with a small monthly donation. And in return for that donation, you do get PDF and learning materials with every single episode. And we have a whole back catalog of every single episode that we've already done, which is obviously quite a few at this point. So if you want to know information, get all the details, sign up and get instant access, you can go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com. And when you get over there, you can click on one of the Patreon banners, or you can simply go to patreon.com and search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Both ways get the job done, and we really appreciate that. Shout out to some new patrons this week. Thank you to Todd. Thank you to AZ, Jason, and Michael. Thank you guys so much for signing up to become part of the family. And of course, to all the members that have been supporting us for a while. Thank you. We could not do this without you. So again, 10minutejazzlesson.com. Click on one of the Patreon banners, or patreon.com. Search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. We're going to take next week off. Of course, next week is Thanksgiving in the States, so we're just going to take it easy. We've already done our 4 episodes this month, so we'll see you all in December, either to continue this particular series or to start something new. Haven't really decided what I'm going to do with that yet. But if you're in the States, I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everyone.